Hey everybody, welcome to Crazy Tech Lab. Today with another video for you guys, hopefully one in a long line of more regular videos, including PC hardware build guides, PC hardware reviews, water cooling, PC modding, all those kind of things. So as always, I'd ask you to subscribe to my channel. Subscribing is your way of showing support for me, starting out here on YouTube, and your support is very, very much appreciated. So hit that subscribe button and make sure you turn on notifications as well if you can. And today then, I've got a brand new Mini-ITX case from Fractal Design. So a great video for you, all you small form factor fans out there today, because even more interesting about this case is that Fractal Design has collaborated with Intel on the build. So nothing wrong with that, but it's kind of interesting that a case company would be working with a processor manufacturer to actually make a Mini-ITX case. But of course, with the NUC, Intel does know a little bit about small form factor building. So the case that we've got here today is called the Era ITX, and what we'll be doing is just having a look on the exterior, talking about the features, having a look inside, and seeing what kind of hardware you can fit inside as well, and plus talking about my own performance testing. So to start with then, I'll just read you a bit of a briefing that I've had here from Fractal Design regarding the collaboration with Intel and the features of the Era ITX, where it came from, what its purpose is, that kind of thing. So Fractal Design, they are taking aim at creators, gamers, and other DIYers. Fractal Design today launched an innovative small form factor chassis through close collaboration with Intel. We were very excited about partnering with Intel in developing this case, says Fractal Design founder Hans Wallin. It inspired us to take on a project that challenges the convention of elegant design, or challenges the convention that elegant design can't be combined with flexible functionality, and we're very happy with the result. So available today, the Era ITX is the next generation of Mini-ITX case design. We'll see if that's quite true. Next generation is a very bold statement. The compact chassis is free from the configuration limitations traditionally associated with small form factor systems, and by that I guess I'm assuming that's to do with cooling and storage, that kind of stuff. We'll see in a minute. This unique product brings the perfect combination of elegant design and technical engineering to PC hardware innovation. Well, elegant design, I think I'd probably have to agree with them there. Unfortunately, they've sent me the black model here, which, as you can see, it is attractive, but it's if you look at the colours, hopefully I'll be able to bring something up right now on your screen to show you just what other colours Fractal Design has actually come up with. I think I've received probably the blandest looking sample in the entire lineup here, because there's like a cobalt blue, there's titanium grey, there's white, there's gold, and some of them even intermix wood finished tops. As you can see on this one, I've got a mesh top. There is a glass top in the case, but I think really getting it out there, I would have much rather have had the blue version. That looks absolutely gorgeous. But anyway, I digress. So the chassis breaks new ground for DIYers, and by DIYers they mean PC DIYers, with its sleek look and form factor, small footprint even, good grief, for the powerful PCs that they build. Together with Fractal, so that's someone from Intel actually talking there, together with Fractal we share a commitment on design philosophy and user experience, and this product is a result of that joint collaboration. So kind of interesting then. And the press brief goes on to say that the Era ITX readily accommodates Intel's most powerful processors, such as the 9th gen Intel Core processors, and holds dual slot GPUs, AIO water cooling units up to 240mm. That's pretty interesting in a case this size, of course. And up to 4 storage devices, all thanks to an innovative, flexible PSU mounting system in a 16-litre footprint. So optimal airflow and component cooling are achieved through an efficient chimney design. So some pretty bold statements in there. Very interesting that Intel has worked on the build. Honestly, looking at it, I can't really see that there's been much outside influence as to what I would expect from a company such as Fractal Design, which after all has got a pretty good pedigree when it comes to Mini-ITX anyway. But yeah, so let's continue and talk about the features. So I've got the I think it was the reseller briefing here. So we'll just go through a few things here. So the case supports dual slot graphics cards up to 295 millimeters in length, 16 litre volume, and there are 2 storage brackets. So for storage people here, you get up to 2 hard disks or 4 SSDs, basically 2.5-inch SSDs, thanks to those brackets. Chimney design, so you've got 2 fans, or a fan mounts in the roof, I should say. There is an 80mm fan at the rear as well, which we'll get to in a minute. 2 sizes of PSU are supported, SFX and ATX, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. There's nothing included with the case apart from that rear fan. So unlike the NZXT H1, which is another case I'll be looking at soon, there are no other hardware inclusions. It's just the fan. There's no PSU or anything like that, for the simple reason that I'm pretty sure that Fractal Design makes its own SFX PSUs anyway, so it wants you to go out and buy one of those. On the front as well, you've got the usual ports really. So you've got 2 USB 3 ports plus a full fat USB 3.1 Type C port. So that requires a proper USB 3.1 header as well. So you won't be able to connect that to a USB 3 header. You need the proper USB Type C header, which is included on most modern motherboards, but if you've got something that's a couple of years old, you might be out of luck. So what else have we got here then? So I think we've been through most of the features. In terms of colours, I'll just go through the available options on the screen in front of you now, so you can see what they are. So on the left, you've got the carbon colour, which I guess is the colour that we've got here. It's like a very dark, well, it's essentially black really. I wouldn't really call it a carbon. Then you've got the cobalt, which is the colour that I'm really interested in. I'm really interested in. I might actually try and hit them up and try and get a sample of one of those. You've also got gold, titanium grey with a walnut finish, and a silver case with white oak on the top. Now, I think the combination that I would actually love to see here is the cobalt blue coloured case with the walnut top. I think that combination of that deep blue with that walnut finish, I think that would look amazing. But yeah, we'll have to leave that for another day. And I should add that we'll look at the accessories box next, but I should add that the mesh in the top here is actually replaceable with a tempered glass panel that is included with every case in the accessory box. So let's moving on. I think we've covered most of the things, and I think probably the final thing we'll want to look at is the pricing, but I will go through the dimensions first. So width 160 millimeters, which is very, very slim, and it helps to sort of cut back that footprint, or cut down that footprint, should I say. The length is 325 millimeters, so it's very, very short, and obviously very, very shallow as well. And the height is 310 millimeters, I believe. I think I've got that the right way around. So overall, a very, very compact chassis. And it's, I'm trying to see if I had any other ITX cases behind me. I don't think I do, but it's not that much bigger than something like a Raging Tech Ophion Evo, probably a bit taller, but as you'll see, that does have benefits in a minute. So finally then, in terms of the boring specifications bit, we've got the pricing. In the US, you're looking at $160, and it seems like all of the models are exactly the same price. So if you do fancy that cobalt blue model that I do, it won't cost you any more to get that. In the UK, £140, it's 165 euros, or about 1,850 yen. So that is what we're looking at in terms of price and the basic specifications. So here is the accessory box, and what we're doing is just, there's not much to look at in here, to be honest. There's just a small box of screws and things, nothing particularly interesting, but you do get, let me just get rid of this box. So you do get the tempered glass top panel, which replaces the mesh panel that's in place out of the box, and pretty simple to swap them over. It's just they're just held in place by 6 magnets or something on there, and I'll just demonstrate that for you now. So that just pops off. Underneath that there is a dust filter as well. I think you actually need to open up the chassis to actually remove that, but that's basically how the tempered glass panel fits. You just drop that in there. Like so, and away you go. So you've got the gorgeous top panel there, but with a big vent in the roof, obviously that is going to impact on thermals. So I would just swap that back over, and we can take a look inside of the case. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the case now, and to start with then is the side panels. They just pop off. No screws required, really installation, no screws or anything like that. And that's the same for both sides, so I'll just flip it around and do the same thing on this side. So really nice, simple installation there. And as you can see, there are some curved edges to these things, which generally means that they're more expensive. And I think there's actually a slight bend in the panel there as well that you can hopefully see on the video. So some nice aesthetic touches there, but they will undoubtedly have led to a slightly higher price tag too. So I'm just going to get rid of those side panels. And looking more at the top, you can see that there's that mesh in the top section. So that is removable, of course. That's just the mesh which you can replace with the tempered glass panel as well. And as I've said, there is this dust filter in the roof. I said it was removable earlier, and it is, but it is actually easier to get at it when you've taken the side panels off. But again, just held in place by magnets, really easy to remove, and all ready for your vacuum cleaner. So the roof, as you can see, we'll stick with that theme for the moment. There is a large grill in the top, for fan mounts. So you've got a pair of 120mm fan mounts there, or of course you can mount a 240mm radiator in the roof. So perfect for a reasonably powerful all-in-one liquid cooler. I doubt anyone will be able to fit, DIY liquid cooling in here without maybe a little bit of modding, or if you really know what you're doing. Probably something I could have a stab at some point, but for now it's probably best to leave it as an all-in-one liquid cooler. Although NZXT, good grief. Although Fractal Design does say that you can install a pair of 120mm liquid coolers, so you could use one to cool your GPU and one to cool your CPU as well. So as you can see, I've already removed the hard disk mount here. So that is the dual SSD / single hard disk mount, and there is another one of those actually in here. You can hopefully see that. It's the like a removable cage there as well. So both of these things are removable, and you will want to remove them if you are just using M.2 SSDs plugged into your motherboard, because they do open up the case for a lot more hardware and just make your life easier when you're building the PC. Down here is the really interesting part of the case, which is that you basically get a way to mount ATX and SFX PSUs. So as you can see here, there's a SFX PSU mount here and an ATX PSU mount here. So you'll need to remove whichever one you're not using, obviously. But there are also several mounting holes up here. So say, for example, you were using an SFX PSU down here, you would be able to move that mount up and down here to give you more space at the bottom for graphics cards, or more space at the top for radiators too. So as you can see there is a 80mm fan at the back of the case, and that's pretty much the only separate thing included with the case. There's no PSU included, or cooler or anything like that, as we saw with the NZXT H1, which I'll be looking at soon. But it's nice that Fractal Design has at least included something to get the heat out of the case, albeit that might lead to a bit of negative air pressure. So yeah, just depends on what you actually want to do with the case in terms of cooling, whether you go air cooling or liquid cooling. Probably the latter, I would have thought, if you're going for a high-end build. Now, if I just flip the case up, this is probably my main bone of contention with the Era ITX, in that you can see there are no vents on the bottom at all, and I think Fractal Design has missed a trick there, because there are fan mounts down at the bottom, but also it would mean that your graphics card, which basically slots in down the bottom there and faces the bottom of the case, it would be able to draw air up through the bottom of the chassis and into its cooler, and that's going to benefit the card whether it's a blower style or an open style cooler. So I'm not sure why Fractal Design has done that. It is plastic down there, so maybe they just run out of money at that point or something. There are vents in the side here, but they're by no way going to be anywhere near as effective as it would have been if they'd opened up this bottom of the chassis here. So a bit of a slip up, I think, there from Fractal Design. I would have much preferred to have seen a proper vent in the bottom. But anyway, that's just something that we'll have to live with, and we'll talk about the performance results in a minute. So what I'll do now is just go and grab a motherboard and we'll see how everything fits in there. Right, so I've got two motherboards here. One is just a standard MINI-ITX motherboard, which is the Gigabyte Aorus Z390i Aorus Pro Wi-Fi. So that I'm just going to slot in so you can see roughly how it looks in the chassis. So it just pops in over the back there, and that's pretty much it there. So you can see what kind of space you've got to deal with. You've got plenty of space in the roof of the chassis there for radiators, easily enough for a 30mm radiator and a single row of fans, and a bit of space in the bottom as well, which brings me on to the next test subject, which is the Asus Crosshair 8 Impact. So what I'm going to do now is see if this one fits in there, because I don't think there was any mention of this in Fractal Design's specifications, but it's definitely something I am interested in slotting into this case. Although I think, yeah, as you can see, the problem we've got here is that getting stuff in is a bit difficult when you've got this bracket here and the rear fan, so you can't actually slot anything in. So let me remove some bits off shot. Okay, so basically what I had to do there is remove the rear fan and also that hard disk cage to try and get the motherboard in, because the Impact has a fairly large back plate that was stopping me getting it working. So does it fit? The moment of truth. Oh, yes, it does. Now, the question is, the question will be whether or not the rear fan can actually be replaced as well, although that's probably not that concerning. And yes, it does. So you can actually fit that fan, although I think depending on where you put it, you're probably going to end up blocking the fans on the Impact chipset there. So the cooling fans on the Impact are just under the I/O shroud there. That's a bit of a pain, but I think, to be honest, in this build you're probably going to be using a liquid cooler anyway and ditching it, so you probably won't need that rear fan anyway. But to anybody asking, yes, the Impact does fit into this case, which is great news. So I think we are pretty much there as to actually looking as to what you can actually fit inside the case. So let's take a look at the performance results. So thermal testing with this case is something I didn't have a lot of time to do before I got the video live. So this video is more about looking at the features and what you can actually pack into the Fractal Design Era ITX. But I will say that CPU cooling, even with a low profile cooler, is acceptable. I wouldn't say that it was going to handle an 18-core CPU on a MINI-ITX motherboard, but certainly something like the Core i9-9900KS that I use for testing, or something along those lines, is going to be absolutely fine with a low-profile air cooler. The rear 180mm fan helps to remove air as well, and there are enough vents, I would say, to allow for half-decent cooling. The graphics card, on the other hand, did get quite warm in the base of the case, certainly much warmer than other cases that I've tested recently, especially the NZXT H1, which has, of course, the large vented side panels directly in front of the graphics card's fan. What you don't get here is any kind of ventilation directly in front of your graphics card's cooler. You only get the small side vents, and these simply aren't enough to feed a high-end graphics card, or even a mid-range one, at least to get the best thermals possible. So that is, as I said at the start, my main sticking point with this case, that the graphics card cooling really hasn't been thought out that well. I would definitely use a vent in the bottom of the case if I was designing it myself for this very reason. Of course, with CPU cooling, there is also the addition of the ability to mount a 240mm AIO liquid cooler in the roof, or indeed a 120mm one. Or you could add two 120mm all-in-one liquid coolers, using one of them to cool your GPU core as well. So there are plenty of options with this case. I do really like it. It's a unique design. It looks great from the outside. Some really, really funky colors available as well. And if you fine-tune your case and make the most of the included fan mounts, they will definitely help with CPU cooling, and they will probably help GPU cooling as well. So thanks to Fractal Design for sending me the case. I will hopefully be back at some point with a full build inside the Fractal Design Era ITX, as well as some more specific thermal numbers, and stay tuned for more reviews, including the NZXT H1, which I will have out soon as well. So don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and give Crazy Tech Lab some support, and I'll be back soon.